Welcome to Titan HST's Business Continuity Today, hosted by Todd DeVoe, where planning meets reality.
Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're at. Hi, I'm Todd DeVoe, and I've been involved in responding to emergencies and disasters since 1989. And in 1999, I started my journey in the field of emergency management while I was working in EMS in one of the nation's most active counties. And I started off in medical logistics. And since then, I became an educator in the post-secondary level. Learning and sharing what I learned is a passion for me. So welcome to Business Continuity Today, where we'll continue to learn together. Today, we're talking about essentialism and how to improve the core functions of your job. In 2009, Simon Sinek started a movement to help people become more inspired at work and in turn inspire their colleagues and stakeholders. You know, people like Martin Luther King Jr., Steve Jobs, the Wright brothers, they all have little in common, except for the fact they all start in a place of why. You see, it's hard to do anything, or at least anything right. And until you understand the why behind what you're doing, it becomes difficult to move forward. Socrates said the unexamined life is not worth living. And we can apply to both these questions of why and what taking Socrates' advice on examining what we are doing to make our job and our mission more productive. In any case, it's the order is to find out what is essential. We must first examine what our core function is and what's important. And what do we do well and what we don't do well. And these questions are asked if you find the answer. The function of essentialism is extremely easy. See, I was reading this book by Greg McKeown, and his book is called Essentialism, The Discipline of Pursuit of Less. And it's the 3 steps to understanding what is essential. One is be clear about the essential intent. Identify the slowest hiker and remove the obstacles. Now, some of these questions that you're looking at here go, what does the slowest hiker have to do with us? And we'll get into that in a second. And what are obstacles? Well, maybe more than just physical things. And to be clear, what is essential intent is, again, it goes back to the intent of what you're trying to do. See, let's talk about what is clear about the essential intent. As we're looking to make changes or cuts in the services that we're providing, if we're not intentional, we might make things worse for ourselves and our team. See, what is the outcome that you're looking for? If you can't answer that question, how do you know what to cut? So we talked about mission creep in other conversations, and how do we know what is creep and what is just additional projects that were within our wheelhouse? See, we use these skills that we already have. We're making plans, making solid objectives, and making solid goals. And once you have that laid out, it's easy to see what doesn't fit in your core function. Then we take those steps to remove what we call minimize, right? And we don't make them a priority for your department. But you need to communicate those findings with the team and with your command structure and explain your decision behind it. Now, sometimes within the organization, you have, what is, as McKeown calls it, the slowest hiker. And he goes into this story about Boy Scout troop hiking up the hill and about this effect, the accordant effect of the slowest hiker slowing everybody down and some of the stuff that he had to do. Now, I want to examine this a little bit differently, right? If you have a team that you lead, okay, this is what it's really about. I want to share a story of my own. When I was serving as a corpsman with the Marines, we would go on these company runs. And it may sound strange to you, but I'm not the fastest runner, but nor was I the slowest runner. I was kind of right there in the center of the pack. And so we had this guy named Troy who could outrun anyone. Like, I think he was run like a 60-second mile. Okay, all right, I'm stretching a little bit. I understand that. But man, that kid was fast. I mean, so much so that I used to joke with him that, when he gets done at the end of the run, can you please go grab us some drinks and stuff, having it waiting for us, because he's going to be there way before we get there. When Franklin, we had this guy, his name Franklin, he was the slowest human in the military. I don't know how he finished his PT test for the most part. We'd all be done with our PT test, and he'd be coming to, we're getting ready to hit the showers, reading books, hanging out, and Franklin would lumber across the line just before the cutoff for him for his time. So how do we get those two opposites to stay together in a run? Well, it's simple. We have to bring Franklin out to the front and have him set the pace the way we run. See, because if Franklin fails, we all have to stop We all have to pick them up. We have to go get them, and we're going to end up running more. And this is what a team is all about. It's about working along the strengths that you have. Now, Franklin was a good guy. He might have been slow in the group, but he had some really good qualities that, made up for his physical areas that he didn't do well with. He was a great logistics person. He understood the Marine Corps logistics system. He could get things for us. He would go out and make sure we had all the things that we needed, and we could rely upon Franklin to get our stuff. So it wasn't that he was a useless person, right? It was the fact that he just didn't run well, right? And so we didn't want to, really lose him. So we have to run at his pace. Otherwise, we do lose a guy like that. And you might have people like that in your organization. Okay. So emergency management and business continuity were pretty much a pogo position. And we need to keep up with those line forces, right? We can't do this if we're all weighed down with non-essential tasks, right? We have to be able to get our guys, right, and gals working in this position up to help lead that, to help lead that pace. You see, Franklin, at the end of the day, right, we didn't put him in a job that required to be a fast runner or carry a lot of gear. We put him in a position that he did well. Kind of going back to Jim Collins' idea of having the right people on the bus, but also putting them in the right seat. And this moves into removing obstacles. So now with the objective identified, you've written down your goals, you shared them with your team and your boss. Everyone has agreed that this is the direction that you need to take the department. However, yes, there's always a however, the items that we've been placed on your desk still need to be completed by someone, and maybe someone in the department or maybe out of your department. You do not want to necessarily shift those responsibilities. In some cases, you can argue that something that should not be done is a nice to do, and you can really remove that completely off your plate. For example, one of my jobs, they wanted me to take on neighborhood watch. I did not have any experience nor desire to do crime prevention. So I pivoted. I took the idea of neighborhood watch, which we created this thing called Neighbor for Neighbor. It's a neighborhood disaster preparedness program. We had our volunteers run the program. It was a win-win. It moved the mission creep for my department and made it a volunteer program, an essential part of the team. And when we founded and funded the decision, right, it came across as a positive with contributions that the volunteer program was able to perform. We were able to get the program up and running with the commander's intent being in place, right? Presenting the community, getting out there, doing stuff for the community, and really showing our presence. And we were able to highlight the talents of the volunteer program as well, because they are an essential part of the city budget, right? And as the residents of the city were happy to see the public safety departments were out there working together, providing some guidance on preparedness to include crime prevention. And the obstacles of this example were the linear thinking, where we shifted thinking into a systems thinking and a problem-solving approach. See, by removing that obstacle, we didn't cut any services, but it's put the position and put the job in the right spot for the right people to do the things in the right location. That's the idea of sometimes removing those obstacles. It doesn't mean that the job doesn't get done. It just means, does it really function in this place that it needs to be? See, and our process is first to identify what is essential, identifying what is important for your department, and then cutting out all the rest of the distractions that keeps you from doing what is important. When we try to do too many things at too many times, and we keep adding on, and we're overloaded, and when we're overloaded, you can't do any of them well. And as Socrates said, right, the unexamined life is not worth living. We must first examine what is important, to do all things that give value, find our why, ask good questions, find better answers, and then let that slow runner set the pace, and you all get to the same destination at the same time. Thank you for being with us today, and visit Titan HST for all your communications needs. And remember to follow us on your favorite podcast player, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and join us. Until next week, stay safe and stay hydrated.